Hi, this is Professor Roger Louis Martínez-Davila, and welcome back to Deciphering Secrets. Well, it's our last week in the class, and I wanted to thank you for all of your hard work over these last, now it's going to be 12 weeks. So we've covered a lot of ground. We've first kind of examined the history of medieval Spain, its intercultural relationships, Jews, Christians, and Muslims during the Middle Ages. Then we proceeded to kind of investigate this very interesting history in Placenta, Spain, focused on intercultural relationships in Western Spain and how Jews, Christians, and Muslims were interacting in terms of economic activities, in terms of residential patterns, and the like. And lastly, as you know, this last 3 weeks has been about the citizen scholarship part of the project, known as Revealing Cooperation and Conflict. And as we've worked through these 300 plus pages of the original Actas Capitulares, we've been working with our 19th century version. We've been getting lots of great pieces of information about families, about relationships, about activities, whether this is wine, whether this is the rental of homes, or if it's about conflicts. So we're greatly appreciative for all your efforts. Now, I do want to make a couple points. One is, you should recognize you are a part of a leading edge effort to incorporate folks like yourselves. You are intelligent museum goers who are educated and engaged in your world in scholarship. This, as far as we know, is the first attempt to integrate a massive open online course with also citizen scholarship, working through manuscripts. So you should be really proud of yourself for attempting this endeavor with us, because it hasn't been easy. And as we've seen, there have been hiccups along the way, but we think we're developing a really robust model so that not only can we examine medieval Spain and in these specific kind of inter-religious and cultural issues, but also to build a model that other scholars and other interested parties can collaborate together. We really do think this is the future of what is known as the digital humanities. And in that respect, it's about how we're incorporating digital technologies, whether that's the internet, videos, interactive relationships online and through discussion boards and transcription for a broader endeavor. Linking, as you might know, we started off with 10,000 participants in the MOOC from 139 countries. This has been a global effort. So one, you should be really excited about what you've accomplished and what you've done with us. Two, this is a beginning. For those of you that have continued to work with us, and there are quite a few of you in the thousands, we are inviting you to participate in the Revealing Cooperation Conflict project. As this MOOC is closing down, we're transitioning to a new phase, and we will be incorporating those of you that are interested in the Revealing Cooperation Conflict project, working more through the manuscripts and working to investigate the relationships between these different communities in this online presence on the internet. And so I would invite you to visit the Revealing Cooperation Conflict website and to enroll in our citizen scholarship effort, and to let us know about your communication preferences. Do you want to hear from us in the future? And what capacities? We'll be posting YouTube videos throughout the next year about our activities and efforts, and again, inviting you to work with us alongside of us. Now, the last piece that I really wanted to get at, and it's the most exciting part that I can share with you today, and it is one of the reasons why this MOOC has been so challenging, and that is, in the backdrop, when you weren't looking, we have been working on building a 3D visualization of virtual Placenta called Virtual Placenta, and it is specifically from the period that we're studying, the 1400s. So we are inviting you to visit Virtual Placenta today. In this first iteration, what you will see is I'm going to narrate a presentation of our version 1 of the community, and we're going to be located in the Plaza of San Nicolas that you've been reading about. We will visit the Plaza of San Nicolas, the church there, a seigneurial palace, as well as the synagogue. And what's really exciting about Virtual Placenta is we are using the stories that are generated from the Actas Capitulares to populate the world. And we have 10 stories initially to start to tell the story of Jewish arms makers, of churchmen and their wine, as well as burial practices, how knights would be put to rest. So we will be eventually hosting this, hopefully within the next month. This will all come online at the Revealing Cooperation Conflict website, as well as our major funder of this endeavor at this initial moment, as well as partner, the University of Texas at Austin, the General Libraries, and the Mappa Mundi project. And in that capacity, we will be hosting Virtual Placenta as a web page and a world that you can explore, and you'll see this in a minute, as well as a downloadable application that you can put on a computer. And that's really neat because it is immersive. So you step into the world and you can experience it and roam around in it. So we will be hosting this at the General Libraries of the University of Texas at Austin as it becomes a part of their permanent collection. And that is particularly important because, as we all know, the digital world is in some ways uncertain. And as we can appreciate, and I think I've made this point earlier on, manuscripts, paper, vellum, papyrus even, they are a form of technology. And surprisingly, they're quite robust. We still have artifacts from 2,000 years ago often. And so in this context for us, we were working with artifacts from 500, 600 years from now. So it shows you the robustness of this technology. Well, what about digital technologies, online presence, and things like that? I think there's still a bit of skepticism about how long these technologies will last. Well, that's why we've partnered with the University of Texas at Austin, because they will host our applications and our work, our collective work in this Revealing Cooperation Conflict project as a part of their permanent collection. In essence, it becomes a digital piece of vellum, and with the commitment to always keep it intact. So we're entering into a new and exciting phase. I thank you for your efforts, and I welcome you to continue this journey with us. Thanks again, Godspeed, and have a great fall. To explore Virtual Placenta, we must depart from present day today and the Plaza of San Nicolas as it appears in 2010, and roll back the clock and return to the 1400s. By doing so, we can recreate a world that no longer exists. We can envision buildings as they were in the 1400s, like the Iglesia of San Nicolas. Welcome to Virtual Placenta, a geovisual recreation of the medieval city of Plasencia, Spain. Telling the story of the city, especially during the 15th century, especially the 1400s, is particularly important due to the religious intermixing of Jews, Catholics, and Muslims during this age of increasing religious intolerance. Not only does this history reveal moments of conflict and cooperation between the different religious groups, but more important, it details how some Jewish and Christian communities align their interests at the expense of other Christians. Similarly, the details of medieval life are exposed, including how physical ownership of homes was richly established, what the role of Jewish converts to Christianity or conversos was in the formation of the Roman Catholic Church, and how the production and sale of wine defined elements of the community. And lastly, in what manner did the medieval social class of knights, caballeros, distribute their wealth to their heirs? These stories, derived from archival manuscripts pertaining to Plasencia, as well as many more, can be experienced in Virtual Placenta. In this manner, not only have we electronically regenerated 15th century Plasencia, but also have tied these narratives to the physical environment. In this way, the virtual visitor can stand at the steps of the Church of San Nicolas and read about the deceased knight Diego González de Carvajal, and visit the synagogue and learn about its Jewish residents such as Abraham de Loya. Version 1.0, the Plaza of San Nicolas, is our first endeavor to recreate this world. It is located in the city's medieval Jewish quarter, also known as the Judaria. Within this zone, visitors can explore 10 historical narratives from the 15th century, as well as view the Church of San Nicolas, the Iglesia de San Nicolas, the synagogue, reconstructed using architectural details from other contemporaneous synagogues, and the Palace of the Mirabeles, or Palacio de los Mirabeles. Now that we've kind of discussed these elements of what is in this virtual world, let's begin to explore it. What you're viewing now is just a movie that we've created of the virtual world that you can explore. And at this moment, we're walking on a back alley behind the synagogue of Placenta. Oh, and this is one of the first aspects of Placenta, that we can explore different narratives, in this case, a set of keys that one can find on the ground. And this tells the story of the Apartamento de la Mota, which was a specific zone in Placenta where certain Jewish families and rabbis would create their own homes behind walled structures. And this was in light of the 1390s and the anti-Jewish riots that occurred in Castile and Leon, as well as Valencia and other parts of Aragon. I particularly like this story, the one of the Apartamento. Within the Apartamento, there were two zones. One area contained the synagogue and multiple Jewish homes, and the other area included the dwellings of Diaz de Vega, a local Christian city councilman or regidor. In 1416, the city forced Tel Diaz to forfeit his properties inside of La Monta to Álvaro de Sande due to unpaid debts. Property passed through multiple hands, leaving Fernando de la Mota as the final purchaser. Eventually, this residential zone would take his last name, the neighborhood of La Mota. Fernando allowed the Jewish families to continue to reside in them, but to affirm his status as a landlord, he performed a customary ritual of taking ownership. The scribe recorded that, quote, Fernando entered into the houses lived in by Yusuf Castaño and other Jewish residents. These houses, the best of them, had been owned by Tel Diaz. Fernando took possession of the homes by physically walking into them, and then he closed all of its doors. He then opened the doors and shook the hands of Leticia and her husband Simeon Abenibi and all the other Jews living in these homes. In this manner, Fernando de la Mota proceeded to secure all of his houses in the Apartamento. This particular story is intriguing because it shows us the nature of property ownership and transfer of properties, one that we still experience today, and how we sell homes and give them to other people that they will live in. Now what we're looking at is the navigational map with inside virtual Placenta. As you can see, the red dot is where we are now, and you can see the cursor moving. That's where we started, in front of the church. We walked around behind it, passed through the palace and a tunnel, and behind the synagogue where we found our keys, and that's where we are today, at this moment, the red dot. So that's one of the elements you'll be able to explore in virtual Placenta. Another aspect is one we call time travel, or travel through time, and you will be able to explore different eras during the 1400s. Here, we're going to travel through time to the 1420s, and as we swirl back in time, we'll find ourselves at a new point in Placenta, and where we can learn about a story relating to a chalice, as well as some barrels of wine. You'll find many of them in virtual Placenta because it was a perennial interest of the folks that lived here. But I'm more interested in this other aspect and looking in the 1428s and experiencing what had happened then. There we will find a market that is set up in virtual Placenta, indicating we're in the year 1428. And this is what's quite exciting about virtual Placenta, is that we can experience it in different eras and different times. So as we walk back past the synagogue and towards the Church of San Nicolas, and in a moment you'll see that we'll be passing by the Plaza of the Miraberas, but you'll notice in front of the plaza or the church, now there's a market that has appeared, and that wasn't there at the beginning of this visualization. So the market story is particularly interesting for a number of reasons. In 1428, the City Council of Placenta and the Cathedral of Placenta agreed to solve a conflict over a perennial issue, the collection of taxes. Leading the charge were the Santa Maria and Carvajal families, who are a collaborative group of clans that promote a new collaboration between the knight-dominated City Council and the Cathedral of Placenta's leadership. Previously, the two distinct entities had found cooperation tenuous in light of the disagreements over the church portion of tax collections. To ensure better relations between the two parties, the church acquiesced to the city and granted it more authority. The initiative involved the Cathedral of Placenta choosing to lease its share of the portasco, a toll tax on goods passing through the city gates, to the city council in return for a set fee. The success was particularly noteworthy because in other Castilian communities, such as of Avila and Ciudad Real, community issues like this are often turned to enormous jurisdictional battles. Now we're traveling to 1455, and this one is particularly fun because we encounter the case of Diego González de Carvajal. Diego González de Carvajal was buried at the Church of San Nicolas, and that's why we've placed his broadsword here. So why his broadsword? Well, the testament makes clear that Diego González de Carvajal had married 3 times, and he was worried about the distribution of his wealth to no less than 12 children by 3 wives. In fact, the property distribution of inheritance and returning what each spouse had brought to the marriage was a big concern. In a telling example, Diego willed, quote, "And because Teresa Rodriguez, my wife, had brought and gave to me a small amount of silver that I made into a round embellishment with the figure of a pine tree for my sword, I will that it be for the said Teresa because it was made from her silver." In this way, a wealthy knight struggled to settle his last affairs. So now we look into the sunset towards the Palace of Mirabeles, and we can contemplate what is coming. Virtual Placenta version 1.0 will be released shortly and published on the University of Texas General Library's website. There you can experience it as a HTML or web-based environment or online as an application. Welcome.